So at this point we have an understanding of what a substring is, and so in this lecture I want to discuss how we can search a string for a substring or for a character. So in this example I have a string which I'll just call str for string, which I initialize to this string here, where is Bob, with an exclamation and a question mark. You may not need the backslash with the question mark symbol, but I just add that in here just in case. We have another standard string, a string to find, which I'll use in a second, and then we also have a character string, which has both of these are initialized to ears, and then I go and print string out just so we can see what that actually is for reference, and then I go and use the string.find member function, which is what we'll use to search the standard string, or in other words this, in this case the str string, for something. In this case I pass in a literal, in this first example, ears, and that is going to return the starting index of the substring, that is the index of the first occurrence of the sequence or the argument. Currently again I just pass in this literal C string, and if I build a run, we can see that that starts at index 6 within that string, where is Bob. Alright, now of course I can pass something else in there as well, such as Bob, and if I build a run, you'll see the index is different. It starts at index 9. As I mentioned, we can also pass in a character, so I'll pass in the exclamation, build a run, and we get 12 now. The function also works with strings. We can pass in a standard string instance, string to find, that is initialized to ears, and so we get the index 6 returned. And it also works with C strings, build a run, and you can see again we get index 6. Okay, so what happens if it does not find what we are looking for? So let's say we enter Bob with a lowercase instead of an uppercase, and we build a run, then we get this huge value. Well, that is going to return something called npos, which is a member in the standard string. The standard string member std string npos. The npos member is a constant containing the greatest possible value for the type size_t. This is sometimes used as a default argument for the length of a string or a substring in member function invocations, and it basically means until the end of the string. And of course you can also pass that in if you want to specify basically until the end of the string. Sometimes the standard string member functions also return the npos, and in that case it usually indicates that there are no matches found, and that is what we'll demonstrate in an upcoming example. We can also do checks for this, so if it is not npos then continue, otherwise it is not found and we move on. Getting back to our previous example, we are printing out here the string.find, and we pass in a Bob or something else. Something like mob, for example, or something like that is not in that string, so it's going to return in position. Then I have a size t in the next line, which I'll use here shortly, and then I go and print out standard string in position is, and I go and fetch that value. If I build a run, you can see that the value that we got previously, that huge value, we actually get that same value here. You'll also get that value if you have the size t. I'll set that to, or initialize that to -1. And then I'll go and print that out. So basically we'll get an underflow, and with that you'll get the largest value that you can store within a size t. Now I actually get an error with this with Visual Studio, which is a good thing, but I want to show you that you can actually fix this so that we can see that those values will actually be the same. And I'll do that by converting this. So I'll do -1, I'll convert that to size t, and of course we will get that number then, that huge value, and I'll assign that to size t. Remember that size t, if I do Ctrl-K, Ctrl-I, size t is an unsigned long, so because we use -1 here, we essentially get an underflow, and that will give us the maximum number that can be stored within this size t type. If I build a run now, you can see that those values are the same. And then I'll comment these out for now. Let's say before we print something out that we want to do a check, what we can do is, I'll actually just remove this here. And let's say we want to do find, so I'll do string.find. Now we can do a check to see if that value is not the same as the standard string in position, then we can actually go and print out, let me copy this here. Then we can go and print out what that position is. And the semicolons here at the end. So if the position is not the same as the string in position, which again, we can do Control K, Control I on that, and you can see what the value is for that. You can see that that is a constant size underscore t. Basically, if the argument in this example is not found in the string, in the rest of the string, then it's going to return that in position. So we do a check. If that position is not the same as in position, then we print that position out, otherwise it is not found. Okay, so let me build a run, and we will get the position. And if we search for something that is not within that string, then we should get not found. Let's look at a different example and one of the issues that you can run into. Let's have the string which I initialize to day 1, day 3. Now of course we want day 2 here, not day 1. So we want to find string 1 in that string there. So first I go and print out that string, then I go and check, or I try and find that string that we want to find, and I save that into the position. So again, string.find, and I pass in the string to find. Then I go and check if the position is not standard string in POS. Then I use the replace member function. I pass in the position, so that particular index, and then I want to use the length for the second argument, just in case I go back and I make a change to that, and then I pass in 2 here. Then I go and print that out again. So let me go and build a run to see if this works, and we don't get what we expect, because of course it's going to find the first occurrence of that. So we get day 1 again, and so on. And then the second line here we get day 2, day 1, so that's not what we want. Now we actually have a member function which will reverse that. So rfind, which is going to search for the last occurrence of a character or character sequence. So in this case we want to find string to find. The last occurrence is going to be 1 right here. So we're going to replace that with 2. If I build and run, you can see that works fine. We get day 1, day 2, day 3. Now that's great, but let's have another one here. So I go and do. So try and keep those consistent. So let's say we want day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And for some reason I have, let's say day 1 here, and then also day 1 here, and I have 3 day 1s. And if I build it on now, then of course we get day 1, day 2, day 4. That's not what we want. So with that, we can actually specify an index for the find member function. For example, I'll go and insert an index here. The second argument is going to be the first position that should be considered within the search. So with this, let's say we specify 20 or something like that, then we're basically going to ignore the first couple of characters, that first substring there, and then I'm going to replace that with this string here, 3. If I build a run, we get day 1 again, day 3, day 4. And so following that, of course, you can continue this way to solve the problem, and you can fix the issue where we have day 1 here as well. Okay, so go ahead and try that now as an exercise. Try and solve this issue. Try and change the second 1 to 2 so that the second string prints out correctly. Alright, I'll just continue here. So now what we can do is, I can just copy that. And what I want to use now is I can also use rfind or whatever you want. And then I want to find 1 again. It should be fixed now at this point. So the last occurrence of 1 should be over here now, not over here. And so I can now go and replace that with 2. And actually we don't want a redeclaration here. We'll get an error, so I'll just remove that and build a run. Now you get day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Alright, so get the idea with that. That is an example of rfind, which is basically, you can think of as a reverse find. It's going to start at the end of the character sequence or string, and it's going to search in reverse order. Instead of from the first character to the last character, it's going to search from the last character to the first character. Alright, in this lecture we've discussed how we can find the things within a standard string. We've also discussed the in-POS or in-position member within the standard string, and that it basically represents the largest value that you can store in a size_t type. Alright, I hope you found this useful or interesting, and I'll see you in the next lecture.